What about my love? Wasn't it enough? Just let me know so I can hold you close.
Wow, who would have thought that? I'll go first here since I did a little bit of that. First off, I just want to say, Nick Saban, thank you for all of you done for the game. The game is not the same. I just want to say this. Dante kind of called it. He said Nick Saban would retire after this year if they won the Natty. He was this close to predicting another thing. This close. But Nick Saban retiring absolutely shocked me, and it didn't at the same time because we knew this was coming for like a while now, that the day would come that he's going to retire. But I was more so expecting him to go out basically on top type of thing, not out after being close to winning it all. But that's just my thoughts on this. Fishing, what's yours?
Yeah, I hate to say you kind of see it coming, but if you pay attention, you really do. Like just one little thing. Last year, he bought a house in Miami, right? So that's just one thing that kind of is a little bit of a hint. But if you just look on the sidelines, like in past years with Saban, you see him yelling, cussing out people, and of course he still does that. Did it this year, but it just wasn't as much. And he came out with a statement today saying, mentally, it was a little bit harder on him this year to handle it. And I think with knowing what's coming in 2024 with the SEC schedule, with the new realignment and everything, he knew it's. I mean, he's getting old. He hasn't won a. This is his first recruiting class, the 2021 recruiting class that hasn't won a national title. This is the only recruiting class ever that's not won one. Which is a crazy stat.
That just shows how dominant he's been.
Yeah, and so going into next year, man, and at his age, and also, he said last year preseason, he said, I'll continue to coach for this team as long as I can provide value. And maybe, he's so anal about everything and attention to detail. Maybe he thinks that him providing value means just because his standard is so high, him providing value means competing for championships every single year. And maybe he doesn't know if he can do that, especially with his age and with, like he stated today, mentally, how draining it will probably be for him to not only recruit, but coach at an elite level like he has all his whole career next year in a gauntlet of a conference like this is going to be.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And it's just, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the SEC now that Saban's gone in general.
And think about it. He's been there for 17 years.
Crazy.
17 years. He was able to change the way we think about college football. He is the recruiter of all recruiters. He's able to get people to come to Alabama because if you go to Alabama, that is your best chance of winning games.
Yeah.
Yes, he's been coaching for a long time. He had a few NFL stints. He was, an assistant coach from under Bill Belichick, who also just left the Patriots. But he is definitely going to be one of the hardest people to replace in all of college football.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's
yeah.
My whole life, basically. All I seen was weird. Nick Saban coaching 17 years. I'm 20 years old. Like,
my whole adult life, I have known nothing but Nick Saban as Alabama head coach. He has been the head coach since I was a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I don't know anything else. The only other thing I know of Nick Saban is when he was garbage with the Dolphins. That's it.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah.
Won a natty at LSU.
Yes, he did.
The video. Yeah, it's just crazy how dominant he was. If you think about it, we're probably not going to see a dynasty like this again with how the field of college football is going. Of like NIL and all this stuff too.
Yeah, and he also said today that he's been having a hard time being honest about people because, let's be honest, when you're a recruit or a parent or anything and you're committing to Alabama at this point in time, and this could go for Mac Brown, or, any of these old coaches, even in the NFL, Belichick and Pete Carroll, but in this situation, they could be asking like, hey, how much longer are you going to be here? Will you be here for the whole tenure of my son's career, 3 to 5 years? And he said he's having a hard time agreeing on being honest about it. And he's pretty much being honest with everybody and himself and stepping down by saying, I can't promise this to these people and guarantee them the best. And I can't, but frankly, he's probably just not confident that he can do this at the highest level anymore, like I said. So he's being transparent with everybody for the most part, I think. So
yeah, he is. And with that being said, like, who's going to be the replacement? And I know something else we talked about. We got 5 replacements for you. Tony, you want to go first on this one? Who would your 5 replacements be for Nick Saban?
I mean, I feel like one obvious one, it would be Dabo Sweeney. He did play at Bama back in the day. He is one of the best coaches in college football. But at the same time, in that same vein, he has not been very, very good at, getting the NIL thing under him. Like it's not his thing. I don't think he's the best fit, but he is one fit. I also think Kalen DeBoer, Washington coach, he's been having some success. Like, he's a great option. I think Mike Vrabel. Like, think about that. Mike Vrabel.
No.
Everybody doesn't think that, but I think Mike Vrabel could be a great option, defensive guy.
I don't see Mike Vrabel going back down to college, though. I don't see it. I think, if anything, I see him taking an off year, going be a defense coordinator, then going out.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
You never know. Don't get me wrong. Who knows? Like, Alabama knew this probably for weeks, from what I've been hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they've been prepping this and planning this, so they of course have their way. But I don't know with Mike Vrabel. I don't think Mike Vrabel is going to want to do it. I think he knows he can coach in the NFL and wants to stay in the NFL.
I understand that. Also, Steve Sarkisian. Let's just be real. He was a
coach there.
He was a Nick Saban guy, and then went to Texas. I don't think he'll leave because I think he has just as much freedom at Texas to do what he wants to do than as he does at Alabama. But the real person, I saw somebody say Jimbo. No. Lane Kiffin would take that job in a heartbeat if offered. I don't know what it is about this guy. He annoys the crap out of me, but he will do whatever it takes to win.
Jimbo?
Like, he really will. He annoys the crap out of me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll go next and let Fish and go last, since I know he probably has some good ones. First one I got is, I originally had Dan Lanning until he said, no today. The first one I got is Todd Monken from the Ravens, offensive coordinator. He was Georgia's offensive coordinator in their championship run. And I feel like if he's not getting offers from, like, to be a coach from the pros, I think he might come down and take that role, because he knows how it's like for NIL and recruiting wise. He knows how to play against these SEC teams. I just see him more as a perfect fit here in Alabama than I do like a guy like Mike Vrabel, because like Vic says in the comments, Vic said Vrabel doesn't like recruiting and hates the college process. He brings up a good point. And it's like interesting. And so I think Todd Monken's a good one. Of course, you got Lane Kiffin, who's always talked about in these big roles for the, like, anywhere. A&M, he was talked about. Any big coaching job that's open, you always hear Lane Kiffin. But I think this would be one Kiffin actually thinks about here, because he just had a great transfer class, probably the best, but giving Lane Kiffin the history like Alabama, the transfers he'll be able to bring in there as well as a recruiting process, I think will help him way more at Alabama than it will in Ole Miss, if we're being honest. And another one you got Will Muschamp from Georgia. Their defensive coordinator was Kirby Smart.
Oh,
did I take yours?
That's hideous. Go ahead.
That's awful.
You say it's awful, but thinking about it, what has been a dominant part of Georgia? Their defense. Let's be honest here.
But
just go ahead. I'll get you at the end.
Okay. But it's just like, I see this as being a fit. Is it going to
What?
be
Will Muschamp. What?
no, but I
ahead.
think I think they're a coach. He's
Who was that? God?
No, that was that was a Sun guy. Come on, man. No, but I think this is going to be something interesting and underrated one they're gonna look at, because you got to look at what he did with Georgia. Yes, that was Kirby's baby, the defense, but he was also part of it. He was in the rooms helping Kirby, planning the defensive schemes for Georgia, and we all know how dominant their defense was, if we're being honest here.
Yeah, but okay. All right.
And then you got Kalen DeBoer from Washington, of course, is a name I've been hearing as well, which is an interesting one here. You saw what he did at Washington. How he basically took that program and turned it around, taking him to the national championship is basically a very huge feat he did for a team like Washington, bringing in Michael Penix from the transfer portal, so we know he's not afraid to dabble in there as well. And just the recruiting he's done there as well is just great. And then, of course, you got Steve Sarkisian I have as well. He was coach at Texas before he went to coach at Alabama before he went to Texas to become their head coach. Yes, I know he probably has the same leniency as he does at Texas at Alabama, but I think that is something that you could hear that he's been eyeing up, because he knew when he left he probably couldn't get it. But I bet you that's like a coaching spot. He's like, yeah, I want to succeed Saban. I want to be the next guy that you got to think of, with like guys like Steve Sarkisian and Lane Kiffin, who coached under Nick Saban as well. So those are my 5. Vision.
All right. I'm going to go in a little bit. Please excuse me.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go do your thing, bro.
First, I got to
Reason why
address the
I saved you for
Muschamp.
last.
I got to address the Muschamp. I have to. He was terrible at Florida. He was terrible at South Carolina. He's an elite
He was dog
defensive
snaps.
coordinator.
Thank you.
What are we talking about here?
He's
Garbage.
He's an elite defensive coordinator, and that's where he belongs. Dan Mullen, not a head coach, maybe at a smaller school, but he's an elite offensive coordinator. There's certain coaches that don't belong at the HC level as being a CEO of a program type of role, and that's just facts. The good head coaches that are, or the good coordinators are good at X's and O's. Let them be good at that. Let them stay there. They can't do the head coach thing. It's just how some people are built. Some people are built different. Some people are built different in a bad way. So, Will Muschamp at Bama, that's a hell no. Anyway, so I'm gonna preface this list that I have with a few things, because I want to kind of address the whole board of candidates and whether it's a no-go or a go or a possibility. And maybe I might be wrong about these, and if I am, I'll admit it later. But so Dan Letting has said he's not leaving Oregon. It is what it is. I don't trust anybody's word, though, at this point. Lincoln Riley said he wasn't going to what he say, LSU, and then he went to USC, like, and just blindly. So I just don't trust people, but I don't think Dan Lanning is that kind of guy. So I think he's staying. So
he confirmed it today.
Yeah,
that
that's
he's
what I'm saying,
staying.
though. I don't trusting what these people say. This is coach speak type things. So anyway, I don't think he's leaving anywhere. So there's that. They chanted anybody but Dabo at the Nick Saban statue or whatever they did. They do not want Dabo. The fan base will annihilate themselves. They will self-delete, as source says. So Dabo, not going to happen, even though he has ties. They hate him. I would write a blank check to Kirby and make him tell me no, but he's going to tell you no because he makes just as much money, if not just slightly less. So Kirby's not going anywhere. James Franklin's mentioned a lot. James Franklin has underachieved at every single moment that he's had at Penn State.
Yeah.
After his, second year, he's underachieved. That's a no-go. His agent must be amazing because he's in every conversation that's out there. Lincoln Riley, when he was at Oklahoma, possibly. But no, not now at USC. The program's kind of in limbo. Don't know where it's going. But lastly, I'll give you kind of a good one to end this, and this is not even in my top 5. I'll give you my top 5. But Eli Drinkwitz and Mark Stoops.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Possibilities.
Drinkwitz is interesting because he did just get the ascension from Mizzou, which we'll talk about here later on. Ooh.
Just interesting. And we're going to talk about Eli Drinkwitz in a little bit. And Mark Stoops at Kentucky, dealing with less talent, could he actually be successful at Alabama? But just interesting to think about. That's not in my top 5, though.
Okay.
So
Who's
I
your
just
number
wanted to
5?
kind of put everything out there so that we could cover all bases instead of just doing top 5. Sorry to ramble on, but here's my top 5. Number 1 is Mike Norvell. With Mike Norvell, you saw what he did with the transfer portal and what he could do when he got talent. He brought that team out of the gutter, like I've always said about Willie Taggart, and he made them a 13-0 ACC championship. And if he had all his players, they may have gave Georgia a little bit more of a fight, which Georgia's been recruiting in the top 3 for 7 years now. So
yeah,
I think he's done a really good job. I think he might be able to actually have success at Alabama if they did hire him. So that's number 1. Number 2, Kalen DeBoer. With what he's done at Washington, with, again, less talent, if you give him a lot of resources, kind of like, you give him a lot of resources like Mike Norvell, possibly a Lane Kiffin. He's not in my top 5, but if you give him resources, I think there's a lot of people that could do well with it, and Kalen DeBoer is really one of them. Number 3, and we're getting hairy here. I'm going to say Urban Meyer.
Oh,
Stop it! No, I don't see that.
Okay.
He said
You say that, but hold on. You hate the idea, but at the same time, Vision, I have been hearing of that a lot today. I've been hearing that Urban Meyer at the Bama thing.
I've been on Twitter all day, and I haven't heard a single thing with Urban Meyer.
That's the point.
Hold on, Hayden. I'm
That's
gonna let you finish. You cannot diss Coach or Urban Meyer when you literally just said Will Muschamp. I'm gonna stop you right there.
Yeah, come on, dog.
I'm going to prove it wrong here. Urban does not like NIL. He said it straight out. I don't think he's going to come out of the booth to deal with NIL with this. Urban doesn't know.
So you did research on that, but you didn't do research on how Will Muschamp was as head coach. Got it. Enjoy the show.
Anyways, So look, and I agree, though. I don't think it will happen, but I think if anybody just doesn't have anything to lose at this point, it's Urban Meyer after what he did in Jacksonville. So at this point, and this thought crossed my mind, and it's kind of poetic how this kind of sounds. I'm trying not to be too long, but so Urban Meyer, when he first came on the scene at Florida, he was beating Alabama and winning the national championship. He's the only coach to ever beat Nick Saban in the SEC championship, the only one ever. So that happens, right? He wins 2 natties at Florida, takes a little off, goes to Ohio State, wins one at Ohio State, then he puts Ohio State back on the map. And now that Nick Saban is gone now, years later, if he went to Alabama, my God. My God. I mean, but the timeline is just like a full circle. Like he's been at Florida, made him a powerhouse. Ohio State is already a powerhouse, had him win a natty. And then he goes to Alabama and just finishes off his career. It's just very poetic. Not meaning he's going to take the job or that they would offer it, but it's just in my top 5 because his track record's proven and just is what it is. So,
I mean, and think about it too. Like Nick Saban's still going to have an office at Bama, so he's going to just be looking over the shoulder of everything they're doing over there. So no matter who gets hired, Nick Saban's going to be like the eyes from above. It's like, okay, everything going okay?
Here's the thing with Jimbo Fisher. I've been seeing the chat say Jimbo Fisher. He saw the disaster that happened at A&M. No way Alabama's going to do that.
Jimbo
is interesting though, because he does have the history, but I don't think they're going to do it with the disaster that happened there at A&M. Because he was supposed to bring A&M into prominence. He was. They gave him that contract. They gave him the reins saying, here's go ahead. He brought in the recruiting class, but he couldn't put the talent on the field. That's what it was. So
hold on. I'm gonna pop in again real quick. Ryan, I like the Kyle Whittingham. There's an underrated pick. I love the hell out of that pick. I'm not done talking, Hayden.
That's interesting.
Also, One Flamigo, shout out. It's first I've seen you. Hope you enjoy it. Do want to have this discussion real quick. Nothing you did is wrong. We're here to discuss. This is no argument. How can we say Whittingham is not leaving Utah, but also saying Urban Meyer, other guys who have come out and said like, oh, I'm not going to leave, blah, 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 blah. Words are words at the end of the day. They can easily be taken away. Money talks. That is
Yeah.
all.
And Alabama has the money. Money isn't an
Whoa,
issue.
do they?
It's more about who they want to run their programs after Saban to
Yeah, I like
help
that
keep 'em in
Whittington, that Whittingham one. I
that
really
would
do like that
you
one.
give him the talent and the money like Bama. That's going to be fun to see.
Yep. So, number 4, for every reason that Tony mentioned, Steve Sarkisian. Steve
Yeah.
Sarkisian is he's one of the best O coordinators that they've had. He's got ties there. The problem is, and I'm getting into territory where I don't think it's actually going to happen. But the question was the best fit, not who you think it is. But so that's kind of how I'm going about this. But problem is, he just has so much money in NIL at Texas. He has so much buy-in. Like, it's hard to imagine them leaving. If they were stuck in the Big 12, it'd be a possibility, but I don't see it. But Steve Sarkisian is still on this list because of just the ties, and he's a good fit for Alabama. He would be if he did not take that Texas job.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
if Saban retired the year that Sark took the Texas job and Sark knew it, Sark would probably get this Bama job.
Yeah, Sark wouldn't have took the Texas job if Saban was retiring.
Yeah, he would have got this job. So it's just a timing thing, but that's definitely one to look out for. And so, and my last one, and I got, of course, I'm going over the top. I got honorable mentions, but I got Mike Vrabel.
I don't see it.
I got Mike Vrabel. Ohio State fans are like clamoring for him right now.
They are.
He's very sought after by anybody in the NFL and in college. And the thing about Mike Norvell or Mike Vrabel,
I don't want to hear it. You messed up.
But coming back to college, I mean, he would have. If here's the thing, if you're following Nick Saban, it's a hard thing to follow. It's a hard shadow to live by.
100%.
And if you bring an NFL guy in with nothing really to lose, and you know he's a good head coach, so he doesn't have to really prove anything. But if he wanted it and he got this job, he would kind of have the pass, right? And it's hard to follow up anybody, like I said, in any dynasty like this, the year after you fire somebody like Saban, after he retires, excuse me, you're usually probably going to go through a head coach in a few years, and then the head coach after that's going to be the one that succeeds. So a lot of people kind of look past that. It's not a fact, but it's kind of a rhythm that could take place. But anyway, the only other thing I'll say about that one is a lot of these other coaches, when you leave a program like Nick Saban just retired, these Alabama players have 30 days to transfer. It's just outside of the rule. They can transfer. They have 30 days. If a Dan Lanning, for example, just as an example, came over, Dan Lanning's team, Oregon, would have 30 days to transfer. So you could have a potential pre-existing college head coach that could bring their team and transition into Alabama if they wanted to. And you
prime example is literally Dion when he went from Jackson State to Colorado and brought his guys with him.
Yeah. So
exactly.
So anyway, Mike Vrabel wouldn't have to deal with that. So I don't know if that's a positive or a negative, but is what it is. So I got him at 5. And then the honorable mentions I have, if they had the balls to do it, is Jed Fish and Lance Leopold.
Ooh, Jed Fish.
Ooh.
He did an interview today on NFL Network. I was watching it when I was over by my dad, and he basically sounded like he was still at Arizona and he was committed there, based on how it sounded.
Hayden, but what we just said, what sort?
If he had the ball, then
words. This is coach talk. These are words.
I know it's coach talk, but I just want to bring in what I heard.
I feel you.
That's all. I know it's coach talk.
It's so wide open right now. It's ridiculous.
Exactly.
It's if the situation's right, and I think that Bama job opening up is the right situation, so anybody will take it.
Oh yeah, anyone. Let's be honest here.